Captain 420 says, so out of the fights, you would show them DJ Ambo. Don't worry about it. Captain 420, out of all the fights, you show him Pat Barry for Czech Congo? Yeah, it was good. Pennywise, are you re-signed with Podcast One? Got the deal done 2 months ago, my man. Biggest deal of my career in podcasting. They're the best. D. Scott says, because I'd see my brother all the time since he was my tour manager. So I miss seeing my brother. I don't see him as much. I miss the hangs. I miss certain things, but I'm okay overall, man. You ever think about getting back when the kids are a little older? No, I'd have a better shot at fighting than getting back into stand-up, man. That's tough. I always hear you get into your stand-up bag when you're on the golden hour with the boys. Yeah, I miss that. I miss being around the guys.
I believe that Brendan Schaub has a very severe form of mental illness. It's just my belief. But he just told a bold-faced lie, his biggest lie. So let me break down what happened. Someone in the chat during his live stream sent in a super chat that pops up on screen. A guy by the name of Pennywise, who looked like the Opster with wine stains on his mouth. Weird. But they asked about the Podcast One deal. But before Schaub answered that, right before, something weird happened. He got silent and then said, oh, don't worry about it. Because obviously Chin was like, hey, look at this question. And then Schaub went ahead and answered it and told the biggest lie he's ever told. Re-signed with them 2 months ago. Biggest deal ever. He just re-signed with Podcast One, and it was the biggest deal ever, and then had to sell off everything and go to a cheaper storage unit because he went to the cheaper one 2 months ago, right? No. And this is how you know. So all you have to do is just put in, did Brendan Schaub sign with Podcast One 2 months ago? And they said Brendan Schaub did not sign with Podcast One 2 months ago. And if you look further into it, Podcast One, owned by Live One, is a publicly traded company, which means every time they sign talent or re-sign talent, they have to make that information publicly available. So they would have to have announced that, especially if it happened 2 months ago. But you don't even need to look into that. It's 1,000% obvious by every move he's made. He quit the Golden Hour podcast, even during that live stream. He was like, yeah, I miss those guys. He quit that podcast because he's not signed by Podcast One, who has the rights to that podcast. So Schaub figured, why do it if the deal is up? Brian Callen just missed the Fighter and the Kid. He's out shooting something. Schaub, every time Callen has ever missed, didn't just take the week off. He would do an episode either with a co-host or either by himself and just call it the Fighter and the Kid. Doesn't even do that. Why bother doing something when you no longer have the deal? Not only that, he's lost everything money-wise. So how did he sign the biggest deal ever? So he signed the biggest deal ever, but couldn't afford his house, had to sell that at a loss and buy a cheaper house and sell all of his trucks and cars, but he signed the biggest deal ever. And that's the thing that gave it away. If he had just lied normally and just said, no, signed with Podcast One 2 months ago, you'd be like, oh, bullshit, obviously. But it's Schaub. He's a psychopath, a pathological liar. And he had to make it the biggest deal ever. Yeah, you got re-signed to a publicly traded company for the biggest deal you've ever gotten, and nobody ever announced it. And then you selling off everything and having financial problems, but you just signed your biggest deal ever. This level of mental illness is sad. It's pathetic. It's Bappa, people. This is what we're dealing with here. Do you know what this psychopath, if he's willing to lie like that on camera, must say behind the scenes? Just made up a lie that he re-signed with them for the biggest deal ever. Biggest deal ever. He re-signed with them and then quit the number one podcast he's got, the Golden Hour, and then doesn't care about doing The Fighter and the Kid, which he's stated many times, crying about going poor, had to sell off everything, no more cars and trucks, not a sneakerhead, had to downgrade his house, doesn't even have a pool in the backyard, but he re-signed for the biggest deal ever, most money ever. This is who Brendan Schaub is. So sad, dude. Like, to even have to lie about that. Like, why not just ignore the fucking stupid thing? Which I knew. I just assumed he was going to ignore it because when the super chat flashed up by that hilariously good-looking person named Pennywise, I would assume he is, that it went a while before he answered it, and then just out of nowhere, I just hear, hold on. Like, prepping, and then don't worry about it, because I'm sure Chin saw the question. It was probably going to ban the person, and then Schaub's like, I'm just going to answer this. Yep. Re-signed 20-year deal, $5 billion. Yep. It's like, what are you talking about? This is so sad, man. And this is just what Schaub does, though. He literally lies about everything. It goes back to, remember, when the Gallo 24 thing, when someone during his fan questions on Patreon said, hey, B, can you tell me what's better, the Gallo 12 or the Gallo 24? And Schaub just initially, right off rip, Gallo 24, and then expounded on it, not knowing what the fuck he was talking about. That's what he does, though. His first instinct is to lie. His first, second, third, and then overall thing will be to lie. That's all he will ever do is lie. That's how you know everything in this man's life is crumbling around him, because he says the opposite. But you know it is, because he's a pathological liar. It would never admit the truth to any of it. Sad, pathetic, but let me know your thoughts in the comments.